You're listening to In Session, where marriage and family therapist Mark Ponce sits down with your therapist and other therapists in the community to talk about who they are, why they do the work, and what keeps them coming back. This is Beyond the Intake, where we slow down and talk about the parts of therapy, identity, and being human that don't fit into a first session. Thank you for being here. Please enjoy today's episode.
Amisha, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us about the podcast you host and why you started it.
Let's Try and Chat was born just this year, actually. It was nothing in the plan. If you were to ask me a year ago, no idea. But it was like in January. I couldn't sleep and I do a lot of thinking. And like my thing is that I love the work I do. Like I love being a therapist and all of that stuff. But there's only so many clients you can see, right? And so I was thinking, how can my voice or how can I reach a broader audience, right? Because you learn so much about yourself sitting in like with your clients, but even beforehand, it's just like, oh, okay, like this stuff is for real, in the sense of the things that happen in South Asian culture, like the silence of voices, the silence, like, not being told that I love you, or, all of these things. How is divorce happening, or relationships, and all these different things. And it's interesting because I'm like, how can I like talk about not just my clients, it's more about myself and all of these things in the sense of this stuff is for real. This stuff is like, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be like, shared, and not in a way where I'm having like experts come in and like dissecting something. It's about like, no, let's have raw conversation.
Yeah.
Like even though it's just me, and then like this past week I had my best friend on, and we talked about divorce and how like it's real, even though it is shunned upon. We're supposed to be quiet about it. Like even when going through the divorce, my parents were like, don't talk about it with anybody. And it's like, why? And so like, so basically I wanted to bring these topics up and kind of share how real these things can be, and to see if anybody else felt them, and to see if anybody else, felt like they had to be a proper person, growing up. And I was far from like the ideal, the ideal third child,
Yeah.
But I think because of that, it just allowed me to open up and see, and just really, open up and talk about these things and see where it lands with people.
Totally. I think it's amazing, that you put on this podcast, and you've known that. I'm your number one fan.
Yes, you are.
I know when Amisha's podcasts are releasing, and I'm in the gym, I'm listening to Amisha's voice, and your voice is great. On a treadmill, I was listening to the rest of your episode this last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel motivated. I feel seen. No, I think it's amazing that you're doing this. I think it's so necessary for the community, and like to have real conversations too, where like I think people love to get educated on, different psychological things, different cultural implications, all of that. And so be it. And to have like real conversations with like providers who are experts, at what we do, is human. And I think that's what more and more people are wanting. And partially why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up this last episode, because I actually have a question about something you said on there. You mentioned that after your divorce and figuring things out for yourself, you learned how to really speak up for yourself and not take shit. And I think those were your exact words. And I'm wondering, like, what was that like for you to learn that? And how'd your family react to that?
Um, I mean, so yes, growing up, when I said I'm not the ideal youngest child, I would always speak up. I would always speak up in the sense of like, why do I have to do this? Why is this meeting? Why is all of this, right?
Mm,
And which was always shut with like, just do it, or just because it's like we like they didn't even know the answer, so it's just like you just do it, and um so yeah, but I realized that because I was shut down a lot in my marriage, in my first marriage, that I wasn't going to allow that again of me. I wasn't going to allow that voice to be quieted anymore. I wasn't going to, like, of course, there's proper ways to say things. Like, you could say the same thing two different ways and it can be taken two different ways, right? And we've all learned that being in therapy ourselves. And so,
that's the truth.
yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
So I think like I didn't want to keep quiet anymore. If I want, like, whoever, like, friendships are big for me, and like relationships are big for me, and like, how can you still say what you want and have it come across so that people will listen to you,
Mm.
And so, yeah, because not being respected for a very long time, it can get to you after a while, because it is, it's not fair. Nobody should be not respected, and it's not just by one person, it's by multiple people too. It wasn't just in my relationship, it was also at the previous work I was at. So it was always being told to, not say anything or be respectful. Like, it's like, I don't know.
I think I get it. It's
Yeah.
like, as you describe being the non-ideal child in an Asian family.
Yeah.
I think about myself and my own upbringing and a ton of my friends, and how, like, I think just in Asian culture in general, and I know you and I differ in the diaspora of like Asian culture, but
Yeah.
Asian culture in general, it's like, keep it behind the curtain, keep like behind the scenes, stay back of the crowd,
Right.
don't speak up. Otherwise it's like disrespectful. Otherwise we're taking up too much space, or
Yep.
we're doing something wrong.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm hearing you say finding that voice came so early, and then along the way it was like losing it just felt inauthentic to you.
Absolutely.
And then growing back to really taking up that space once again, and even demanding that for yourself.
Yeah.
Seems liberating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as I got older, I realized that if you don't speak up for yourself, then people will run all over you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in a very polite way, of course. And, not to make anybody else demeaning or anything of that nature either while you're doing it. So, yeah, it's a lot of learned lessons. And just even lately, like in the last few years, just after grad school, how much I've changed and more open I've become, or, just, I don't know. It just makes me feel good that I can do that for myself, and nobody wants to see me quiet, actually. So yeah. So
Okay.
I don't take shit from anybody.
From when I known you, for as long as I've known you. That is the truth. That is truth. And you heard it from the source here first.
Yeah.
And now you're in a wonderful relationship with someone I have grown to love myself, Lowell. And I'm wondering, you also mentioned something along the lines of you just visited Portugal and Spain.
Yes.
How amazing. I want to spend some time there.
Yes.
But when you did, you said, like, in this last episode, you mentioned there were some times where you got in tiffs, you and Lowell, and like were able to work through that together. We're able to just have that be just a tiff rather than like a big argument.
Right.
Has that always been the case in your relationship, or how have you built that culture together?
Oh, that's such a great question.
Thank you.
You weren't lying when you said you've been studying. So again, when I started dating, I told Lowell, that one of the biggest things if we're going to be together is communication. And like open and honest communication. Like we're not going to, stay mad at each other for 3-4 days. We're not going to ignore each other. We're not communication is a key, because that's what went wrong in my previous marriage. And so, but then it's also, how do we communicate with one another in the sense of, so when everybody gets pissed off, we don't have a perfect relationship, but I've noticed that even an 80% good relationship is great, but then how are you able to solve that 20% when you are angry at somebody? That's what makes it a key to a great relationship, regardless if you're married or with somebody or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think because I'm so in love with him.
Oh,
that
if you're listening, you heard it.
Yeah, that it's hard to stay mad at somebody when you're in love, and the thing is that there's no ill will. There's no earlier in our relationship, it was kind of difficult because I didn't know how to argue. Right. I was so used to arguing in one way with my past relationship that nobody, in therapy, you're not taught how to argue,
Yeah.
Right. And so, but you try to use all the resources that you have. And as a therapist, he's told me, he was like, don't therapize me,
Oh my gosh. Oh, I've heard it plenty in this household. Yep.
But it's hard not to, because you get into that what is he thinking? What is going all of this
Yeah,
stuff.
what did I hear that maybe they didn't say, but I heard?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, but I think more so, I didn't want our tiffs to ruin our vacation. I don't know about you, but have you ever been on vacation with somebody and when you just get into a fight, it just ruins the whole entire vacation, and because of resentment or whatever the case may be. And so 10 days being with a partner for for 10 days, it's all the time, it's it can get challenging sometimes, but in the end we laugh about it. It was just a misunderstanding, or it was I think it was even more about what food do you want to eat every day? The everyday question of what do you want for dinner, So even traveling is what do you want for dinner tonight, So, but yeah, I wasn't going to let those tiffs kind of ruin our vacations. And I think because I was just so happy that we were there, and I didn't want to because it literally reset my nervous system, and I was like, I don't have the energy, I'm into this zone here, in this very calm zone. And I think he notices that too, is that usually my stress levels are up here, but like in Spain and Portugal, I was like, all right, let's go with it, you know?
Oh my gosh, I've had some dear friends visit Spain, and they've only came back with good news, and they love it, and have talked to Sam and I about moving over there, just how much they love it. And hey, from hearing from you, now it's 2 for 2. So I'm like, Spain, Portugal, that area,
I
sounds like
know.
life's good.
Absolutely. And the
Mhm.
thing is just like you see how they live, even though they don't make a lot of money, but importance of friends. Like it's not like here where we're just rush, 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 rush. Every single day, or at least like a few times a week, they're seeing their friends during the week, you know, making it important, right? Versus like scheduling out, like, oh, okay, in 3 months I can see you, right?
Yeah,
So they work and they, but they take breaks during the day, as everyone should, and they get to go hang out with their friends, and for a little bit, have a drink, have some wine and tapas, and go finish work at like 5 o'clock or whatever.
totally. I think that value of connection that Spain and similar countries have is so admirable
Mm-hmm.
and like so foreign at the same time, especially growing up over here.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, yeah, my family was lean more collectivistic, and yet being surrounded by the culture of individualism,
Yeah.
it's hard not to be on that go 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 mode that you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just like slowing down. And so I kind of been, I brought that back with me. I'm like, I'm just going to be, like I think a couple weeks ago or last week, I was telling Lowell, I was like, I got to do this, and then I got to do this. And he was like, well, yo, man, you need to like slow your roll. Just think Spain. And I was like, you're right, because you can get so caught up with so many things. Like, like you and Sam this morning had to go do grocery runs and
gosh.
all like,
Don't remind me.
adult stuff. And it's like, yeah, just be it and enjoy it, right? So
It's easy to get caught up in the rush of life, for sure, where it's like these things need to get done, and if we're not slowing down to enjoy the life that we're living or enjoy the people that we're with, then that sense of fulfillment that I think you're describing here that you felt in Spain and Portugal just won't happen
Right.
for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other night at the gala or the fundraising, I
Mhm.
think, we had our self-spaced table, and, everybody was asking me about Spain and Portugal and how my trip was, and I was just like, Rachel, our boss, she was just like, just bring it here. And I was like, yeah, we are, and we just kind of all like, we're laughing and joking and, with everyone, like with our like colleagues. And it was just really nice just to be in that moment, and
Mhm.
not have to worry about the time or not have to worry about, oh my God, where am I going next? It was just being with like our colleagues, which is, they're a wonderful group of people to work with. And I was able to enjoy, the event the other night because of that, so
Oh, that event was so fun.
it
Such
was
a
so fun.
yeah.
Such a good cause.
Right. Such a good, resource for the community for sure. I'm glad that all of y'all showed up to that because that felt really important to me. And like
Right.
I spent it was like 20 or 30 minutes talking to someone I didn't know
I saw
on
you.
on check-in. You like mentioned Richard, if you're listening, here we are. He mentioned his car, and then I sat with him. I was like, so tell me more about this Forerunner you got. And then we just went on. And I got into talking about like my history of like getting my first car, and we were talking about Japanese made cars. And like that is just, I think, the slowing down to have these genuine connections, especially with people you don't know or with people you do know, are
Mm-hmm.
so important to general life satisfaction. And I think
Absolutely.
are overlooked, interestingly enough, by many people because again, that cycle of rush, rush, rush in life,
Yeah.
is so easy to get caught in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
and like, and that's the thing. It's just one conversation led to another conversation for you.
Right.
Right. And so it's just like, when you're enjoying that like time or being like just being, and it allows you to really connect, even with someone that you don't know, right? And so
Totally.
because people have a lot of things in common, much more than they think that they do, like do not, and so even by talking about cars or trips or food, whatever the case might be, you can always connect with somebody.
Right.
So
What do you think makes it so hard for people to connect with strangers or connect with even their peers that they've known a long time?
no, I think a lot of it stems from one, if they're introverts,
Hmm.
that is one thing. But then another thing is just like self-critical of yourself, right? Like, am I gonna say the right thing? Am I gonna like, is this person going to even understand my sarcasm? Or am I like, it's like so much of like, oh my God, are they gonna like me? Are they gonna, just do like, am I gonna make a fool out of myself? So all these questions are running through someone's head.
Yeah.
Then it's just like like you get anxious, and then that whole spiral happens, and then it's just like, all right, never mind. I'm never gonna talk to that person anyway. So what's the
Or the
point?
opportunity
Yeah.
is gone.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So because I think interview style, or even like even just vibing with someone else, like at an event, all these things, like yeah, of course, people have a couple drinks and then they get all loose and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But
You've got my podcast model.
yes,
down.
yeah. So I think a lot of the self-criticism and then what they've gone through growing up is like, or like friendships, or it's like, I don't know. It's you get very self-critical of yourself, of if somebody's judging you. So
I think it's so hard because, like, at least in my belief, anxiety does play a role in our lives to protect us in various ways. And, it tends to blockade us from many different things, from us living our lives, from us having these connections. And from what you're saying, I'm just thinking back to what you said just a bit ago about you and Lowell and how you figured it out, and like through arguments and slowing down and like really addressing things that could be coming up,
Yeah.
right, in your head, because it happens so fast.
Yeah.
I think I hear it all the time, like with my couples that I see, of how there's so much going on in the background that they're not even aware of, that they can't slow down to. And when they do, they're like, oh yeah, this is reminding me about how like my mom talked to me when I was a kid or something like that. Or this was reminding me of this one time. And that's why I'm so afraid to ask you or tell you that the way you said this to me really hurt my feelings. And I bring that all up to say, like, you work with couples too. How have you brought some of what you're talking about here, and like the anxiety language, or like the worries language, and your own experience building navigating arguments in your relationships to your couples?
Yeah. It depends from couple to couple, but like, it's really getting to know each other's style. Like when you're in the, as a therapist, when you're sitting and observing, I love watching how couples argue, actually. It is so fascinating, and and I'll just let it play out actually for a good 5 to 7 minutes to really get their full experience, and me just watching. And they'll do it in the sense of like, depending on how long I've seen them, or, how mad they are coming in. Even body language tells me, right?
Yeah.
That's why I love couples in person, because you could tell a lot by body language. But like, people don't even realize they're saying bad stuff, or they don't realize how they're hurting the other person by, you know, the word choices that they use, because it's just so much stuff is going through their head and they're just spitting it out and not slowing down and thinking about it. And one of the things that with me and Lowell, like sometimes when I'm processing it, like I tell him, I'm like, okay, I think I'm just processing this while I'm just talking out loud right now, you know? And he was like, well, he tries to follow me, but he was like, okay, you process while you figure it out and then come talk to me. But I do have to slow down and see what I'm talking about. And that's what I observe with couples is that they have, like you said, they have so much stuff in their head, like with work, with families, with, you know, the holidays coming up, or some sort of like one person has to go to soccer, but the other kid goes to dance. Like it's or multiple activities and all these things that they don't realize how, like, that's what anxiety is like, because the amount of things you got to do. And if you don't, like, you know, when people forget, oh my God, I forgot to bring drinks for the kids this time around. And I'm like, you know, I'm the mom who volunteered to do so, because they had a million other things that is on their mind. So it's like, how, and I'm not saying kids are not important. Like, by all means, you gotta like, parenting is a gift to these parents. But then it's also that same language that you're using at work or you're using with your, like, you know, can harm how you talk to your husband or your kids, because they're not in the same room as you, right? Like, in the sense of, like, I work with a lot of people in the tech industry. And so, you know, there's a lot of like meetings and a lot of like due dates and a lot of, you know, if you don't do something, then you're going to be cut or something or another, always being threatened by your job or whatever, like taking it from you. And so people get so wrapped up around that, they don't realize how they're being with their partner.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking, just as you're saying, like, how easy it is for if we're at full capacity in our minds, how easy it is for us to be short with our partners or with friends or with family or whomever, because the capacity to be with others is already so small.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think couples don't like it when I'm like, yeah, you got in this argument. Tell me what was going on in the day, or tell me what was going on in the week, or even over the past hour
Right.
before this argument, because that's all relevant.
Yep.
You know, and I hear it a ton where it's like, well, they still shouldn't have said this. And I'm like, I agree. Maybe they shouldn't have. And what is it like to know that, gosh, they had this terrible meeting with their boss. They skipped lunch because this meeting went long. They whatever.
Right.
And all of this was leading up to it. If you had known that, how would this conversation have gone?
Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's one of the things. It's just like, do you preface why you're being short? You know, like, or the other person is like, hey, I've noticed you being on edge. Is everything like, is this even related to us?
Yeah.
You know? And I've had couples use this system and tactic, right? In the sense of like, and they're like, oh my God, Amisha, it works. I'm like, yeah. Or if you preface it like, I just need to vent, you know, and I just need to vent. And the other person can be like, go for it, you know, by all means, I'm all yours,
Right.
you know? And it allows it allows the other person to see how much is going on in their head. And it's like, oh my goodness. Like, babes, how can I help you? Kind of like, you know, or come here, I'm going to give you a hug.
Right.
You know, like that does seem a lot. Like slowing down and knowing that your partner is going through so much. and vice versa, it allows, that's where a lot of the arguments can slow down or not be as intense.
Yeah. Or even when they're already intense, that's how you can stop that intensity.
Exactly.
It's so interesting that, like, I think, again, this is something that clients don't like to hear because they're like, give me that golden ticket or give me that one thing I could say that would just get us on the same page or end our argument.
Right.
But it's like that one thing is like loving your partner in that moment,
Right.
or trying to be understanding or being open. Or if you can't get there, asking for time to get there
Yeah.
because you respect this relationship so much.
Right.
And when you can do that, you'll find that maybe the problem is a lot more simple
Mm-hmm.
than what the argument made it to be.
Yeah.
It's like for Sam and I, we figured out, and as a couples therapist, I think couples look at me and they're like, he just got it figured out, never argues with his partner. Wrong.
Yeah.
And most of our arguments stem from like when I'm hungry and like I get
Yes.
and Sam's gonna listen to this and be like, yep, exactly. And she knows it way before I do. Sometimes I'm being short with her and being short with the dog. She's like, you need to eat something before we go out because I'm not having a not so good, I'm not having a shitty time if we could just solve this with like some food.
Right.
But again, there's that knowing the partner, knowing me well enough, and me being able to be like, you know what, you're right. Like, my fault, actually. Let me go eat a protein bar or whatever it is so then we can have a good time together.
Right.
Where it's like that slowing down, where I could very well be like, no, you're wrong. This is actually like very upsetting or all that stuff. When really I just need a bite to eat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's like, yeah, when Will starts getting short with me, I know, like, okay, and it's around that dinner time-ish. I'm like, all right, I need to pick something, and we just need to go eat because afterwards he'll be okay,
Mhm.
But I think that's anybody though, right? Like, in the sense of like being hungry or skipping breakfast or having, traffic being insane, being in Seattle, it raining 3 drops and everybody's like, oh my goodness. Like,
Slamming on brakes.
honking on the horn, like flipping
Yeah.
people off. Like, all right. It's like, will you get there 2 minutes sooner or not, or
Mhm.
it's funny, like how many of those incidents can be minimized.
Yeah. And all of that, I mean, again, coming back, contributes to these arguments people are having, arguments that we're having with our partners.
Yeah.
And if we're not slowing down to name those things, then we're missing a big part of the context that is important for our partner to know.
Absolutely. But as a disclaimer, I feel like we always have to disclaim
Go ahead.
things. If there's violence or domestic violence or
Mhm.
abuse or anything of that nature, then of course, like, that's a different story. This is when we work in a place that is not that crisis centered at our practice. So we're lucky
Yeah.
about that. So, but yes, just wanted to make that caveat.
Totally. So if you haven't gotten it yet, Amisha's a well-trained, skilled, and ethical therapist and couples therapist, family therapist.
Mm-hmm.
What made you choose the relational work? Because often I hear that relational work is the hardest therapy to do.
Mm-hmm.
What made you get into it?
So when I was choosing to go, like, to become a therapist, which, I was in the corporate world myself, degrees, undergrad in marketing and business management, and I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful, in the sense of after my divorce, the amount of people that helped me and stuff like that, I was like, I feel like I need to, I don't know, quote unquote, repay people, or like, I want to send this message moving forward, it's like, because the amount of people, new people even coming into my life and like helping me out. And so I always had this thing of like, I want to help people. And so because it was during the pandemic, I chose Capella University, an online university based out of Minneapolis. One, because cost, of course. Second, because of just I was also working and going to be going to school, so it's like, how will this work with my schedule? And basically a lot of the local schools were just being online anyways. So I went with Capella, and I was looking at both in their description, marriage and family therapy or mental health counseling. And for some reason, I just kept on gravitating towards the marriage and family therapy program. And because a lot of, like, just growing up myself and being in the Asian community, it's not just an individual person. We're dealing with like anybody that comes and sees me, even if they're an individual, I'm like, how did you, like, who was around you when you grew up? Like, were you, what kind of household did you live with? Did you live with your grandparents? Or what is the connection? Because systemic stuff, even in individual therapy, says a lot about someone.
Yeah.
The environment that you were in, and especially when two people come from two different environments, right? It can be so, it can be different. Like one person being in a, I don't know, in a divorced household growing up, while the other one their parents are still married, So it's like, but yeah, so that relational part, like, I just kept on gravitating towards, and knowing that I wanted to work with South Asian community, I'm like, it's all relational, right? And in the sense of your background and everything of that nature. So that's how I chose marriage and family therapy as a degree.
It's all relational.
It's all relational.
Isn't that the Washington
Yep.
MFT slogan podcast?
Yes, it's all relational. I mean, that's their tagline.
Yeah.
So
and very true.
Yeah.
And you were on that to advertise your podcast.
I was.
How was it to be on that and be the first time you were really marketing yourself and your podcast?
It was insane. Like, in the sense of, I had met him at the conference earlier in September, and the fact is that he wanted me on so quickly, and it's like, I've never done a podcast in my life, like, and talking about yourself, and I'm just like, oh, now I get why, like, celebrities have to go and talk about the whatever movie they're shooting about, like, all of the interviews or even musicians, whoever, right? It felt weird in a way, talking about yourself and talking about this podcast and promoting it. But it was so cool at the same time, like, having that experience, even being here, having this experience and talking to like-minded people about podcasting, about like your work. It really it was scary. I was anxious for sure. But it was fun because I knew that I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was I was like, oh wow, my first live podcast.
When working with someone who is of the same cultural ethnic background as yourself, how do you include your experience in the process, and how do you keep some things out, or do you?
It depends on how long I've known them, right? And where it could be relevant. And so, like, if someone is going through a hardship of a relationship or work or whatever the case may be that they're talking to me about, and I don't know, I sometimes get this intuition of like, or this feeling of, they they feel alone. They feel like it's only happening to them. And so, but I ask, I'm like, hey, do you wanna hear something that you like about myself that could possibly help, or just like share? And sometimes they're like, yes, I mean, actually a lot of times they're like, yes, and so I just share a glimpse and telling them that I've been through this too. I know a lot of other people have been through this too. And I think it kind of calms their nerves a bit, because of course when you're going through something and you're in therapy, and we're so like, one of the greatest things that I love being a therapist is how much information people tell us, and we have to keep it to ourselves.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We carry like 15 to 20 stories a week, 20, like more sometimes, 20, 25 stories each week. And we have to show up so differently with every single one of them.
Mm.
And so it's like, people ask me all the time too, in the sense of like, how do you do this? How do you carry so much?
I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
It's interesting. When you first, of course, an intern year, you're just like, oh my God, like my boss actually, like, this is what I prepared for.
Right.
But I think it's like, some days are hard, I will say. So, like, I mean, some days are hard because you feel, I'm with them in the sense of, because I do a lot of feeling and emotion work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I get to their level in the sense of, like, and so it's hard not to feel. I sometimes cry with them, like, just because I'm a therapist, that doesn't mean I don't have emotions. That doesn't mean I'm going to sit here with a clipboard and write down all these notes. No, we hate diagnosis.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of our pet peeves as a therapist, I would say, is like, and because you're more than a diagnosis. You're more than just this code that we have to give insurance company, And so it's like, I think, like, I only share when I think it's replicable or it needs to be, but I always ask, and sometimes I don't share because I'm like, it's not really relevant. So I kind of get like sense of the mood of what needs to be shared, because I don't know. I mean, they should know a little bit about me too.
Mm.
Like, they're sharing their whole entire life. If they know a little glimpse of me, what like, it's gonna make it's okay,
Mm-hmm. I was just having this conversation with a friend who I went to school with, like this very the conversation this last week over the phone, and we were just talking about like this idea of the therapist being 100% neutral or taking up little space in the therapy room, at least in our opinion, seems very outdated, especially if we're telling our clients that we truly want them to build a relationship with us, and showing them that, or like through our work, showing them that relationships are two-sided. But what about the relationship right in the room? And it's like, yes, I agree with you that most things, and I think many clients don't know, like on our side of the room, we're thinking a lot about what we're saying. We're thinking a lot about how much we're going to include ourselves in this, because taking up space, especially theirs in that space, is something we want to be very careful about. And I think as the profession grows, is becoming more and more acceptable. And I think clients are just more for it. Like, they want to know who we are. They want to be able to relate, especially as more clients of color start to seek out services. That's a big part of our culture. Absolutely. To relate to the person across from us in a way,
right? To
build trust, to build confidence in that person, to build confidence within ourselves.
Absolutely.
And if we're holding back for the sake of, like, without actually thinking about what holding back is doing, like just for the sake of the job, then we're almost doing a disservice to our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I feel like because when we share a little bit about our lives and when it's relevant, I think it brings us closer. It builds that relational aspect that what we want, right? And they're willing to tell us even more, you know? I see adolescents, and one of the things that the reason why I started seeing adolescents, well, my internship year, I was at the fantastic internship where I was able to work with a lot of them, and I noticed that nobody wants to listen to them. Nobody thinks that their voice matters. Nobody thinks that what they say is any relevant. It's like, oh, this teenager, what would they know? You know? And so when they come into my room or when their parents bring them, their parents are like, all right, I need XYZ, 1, 2, 3, this is all going on. And then they'll leave the room. And I'm like, that's wonderful that your mom or dad told me this information. But what about you? What do you think is going on with yourself? Is there something going on with yourself? Or is that just, and really getting to their level.
Right. I think so many parents come in and are like, here's my child, fix them.
Right.
And that's so hard.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the child is like, that identity of how am I so bad that this person is going to fix? And it kind of gives that bad reputation. Like, we're not doctors. We're not like, a pediatrician where it's like, all right, you have a cold, I'm going to prescribe you some child Motrin or something like that. Right? And so they get this negative kind of connotation on therapy. And so regardless of what age you are, and if you don't even stick with me, or if you pause therapy or whatever the case may be, I want you to have a good experience in therapy. I'm going to get on your level. If you don't want to talk about something, that's okay. We can move on. But I'm going to try my hardest to be on your level wherever we want to start from.
Yeah.
I
get that. I think so many people come in, kids, because their parents say they need it. Now they've adopted this narrative or label of I'm a problem and I need fixing. Where it's like that. Yeah, you're right. It starts off like that's the narrative that we kind of have to work through and build this trust that doesn't have to be the only thing.
Right.
Or like others who like, I've been getting in a lot of fights at home and my husband or my wife or my partner is telling me that I need to go to therapy. So that's why I'm here.
Right.
Again, similar narrative, different context.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to be like, oh, okay, but what do you want?
Right.
Like, why do you think you're here though? Or like, do you even want to be here?
Right.
And if not, like, you don't, like, I'm not going to force you to be here.
Exactly.
I want to help you in the way you want.
Right.
But if someone else is labeling that for you, then I don't know if there's much I can do for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's like gives this like this bad like it's like, oh, you need to go to therapy. Like therapy's going to fix you magically. And then that self-critic, like, okay, I am the problem. I am going through this. How, like, and then you start doubting yourself. And then all these like negative things like reinforce, right? If I'm that bad, I need to go to a shrink or whatever, or they're going to totally diagnose me and it's not fair. It's not fair of how sometimes therapy is used.
Yeah.
Because I tell clients, even in a consult, I'm like, they're like, how long is it going to take?
Oh, man. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
What a question.
Right.
I wish I knew.
And like, I tell people, well, I mean, it really depends. I've like them as years go by and being more sure of like, the therapist that I am, I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, I've had people that have been here for 2 years, you know, and they're like, 2 years? They still haven't gotten their stuff, like, together, and it's just like, it all depends, right? And it's just like, well, the therapy part, yes, you're in my session for 50, 55 minutes, but it's the work you do outside that is going to make the difference. I don't see you. Only for that hour I see you.
Yeah, you got the rest of the week.
You have the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
If you and your partner are not communicating and the only time you guys are communicating is in this session, we have a problem here. You know, how is this session like, how are you going to be able to apply the stuff that we do learn in here outside?
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't need a minute by minute recap of your argument that's going to take up 45 minutes of our session here, you know?
And yeah.
And some people do want to do that, but I'm like, okay, let's recap. What are the main highlights that you saw in this argument or whatever that needs to be addressed?
Oh, I love that. The main highlights. I feel like so many, especially couples, come in and want you to hear the story because they feel like the story is the only way you'll get it. And I'm like, shit, tell me the story.
Right.
You know, tell me the story. And like, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to stop you because like this part of the story, we missed each other here and we're not talking too much about that.
Yeah.
Like whatever comes next, sure, we'll get there. Give me the highlights. Give me the play-by-play. But we're going to come back to where we missed each other emotionally. We're going to come back to when we saw this look and then you felt already shut out.
Right.
We're going to come back to those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so like it really depends on you as a person. You know, I've been in therapy for like 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I actually love going to therapy because I get to like, you know, share my perspective, share this, you know, and like, it's my freaking hour. And then like, I'll let my therapist talk too, in the sense of like, I want your expertise. What do I need to do? You know, like, so it allows, not saying that something's been wrong with me the whole 13 years, but I've been able to use a lot of the stuff in my life. And therapy is not for the here and now, you know? It's also for the future. You know, like people think it's just for, you know, this phase of my life. No. Some of the stuff that we do in here, you may not use it until 5 months later. And then when you use it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I see what she was saying. And it's funny because 7 months later, they'll be like, oh, you know that thing that you said in therapy? I'm like, what did I say in therapy?
I say a lot of things.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And they're like, no. And then they recap. And I was like, oh, how did it like work out for you? And they're like, oh my God, it worked, you know? Or, oh my God, it didn't work. Or like, I knew at that moment it wasn't going to, you know, be relevant, but I tried anyways. And I'm just like, that's amazing. The fact is that you tried. You tried. I don't have the golden ticket. Like, we don't have the golden ticket.
Right.
We're going to try. If it's a complete fail, at least you know.
Right.
Yeah.
At least you put in the effort and can see yourself doing so.
Exactly.
It's already a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, so many things here. And I don't know even where to start, but I feel like therapy is often thought of as you come in with a challenge and it's point A. And like by the time you get done with that challenge, I'm throwing air quotes up for those just listening, then you're done with therapy.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like, yeah, that's one piece of the puzzle. And the longer term work comes with, oh, it's just so nice to have this space where I can be authentically me, where I can talk about these different things in my life. Either just figure it out, celebrate with somebody, be sad and grieve with somebody. And all of that is therapy. And that can last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean you have this long-standing problem that your therapist is incompetent to fix.
Yeah.
It's that like the space is just so different from every other space
Exactly.
in people's lives most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And which, yeah, like, yeah, I like, yeah, that is so true in the sense of like, when people do come in crisis mode, right? And they like we meet pretty regularly, and then once the crisis has kind of subsided, they're like, all right, we can move to weekly or monthly or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, like, unless of course for financial reasons and whatever else.
Oh, yeah.
And but I like you to come in weekly or bi-weekly max, because we still have a lot more to go. You just didn't get into this crisis mode today. It was months building up to why it became a crisis mode. And so let's work on behind the scenes, the root cause of this crisis, for when a different crisis comes up. It may not be exactly the same crisis, but something else coming up, right? How do you cope with just regular stuff?
Yeah.
So, and then they're like, oh, I didn't really think about that.
And I'm so in agreement with you here, where I'm like, yeah, there's so much to explore. Like, let's keep this going. And I'm thinking about like you and I, of course, are on the same page because we see the work the same. We do the work pretty similarly. I'm learning more so today as you're talking. And I'm just thinking about the clients who are like, okay, yeah, but I came in, addressed this problem, and now this person's telling me like I got so much more. Are they just making this up? Like, are they just trying to keep me because, I'm paying them and like they're only worried about themselves? Like, what do you say to those clients who are like, therapy is just this ploy to keep you in the chair and make you keep thinking about all these things that weren't problems in the first place? And now all of a sudden, because we're in this space with someone, they're problems.
It's true. I mean, mind you, it's not for the money.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I think it's just, of course, like anybody has free will to end therapy when they want to, right? But the thing is that I explained to them, like, what about this, and this that had happened prior? Like, because, they're sharing all of this information with us, right? And you pick up on certain things that you're like, oh, I'm going to bookmark this to come back later because it's not relevant right now. And so I used their language, but you told me this, you told me this a little while ago in a couple sessions beforehand. And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. So it's not a ploy to keep you, in the sense of, I just want to find more problems. It's much more, you said something that struck me and you didn't even realize it until I brought it up a few weeks later. So
a little cameo from Gracie.
Yeah.
If you could hear that. No, I love that. I love that answer. It's not that I'm trying to just pull problems out of our asses. It's the fact that, like, you said this and you're important to me and I want to spend time there. Yeah. Because maybe no other person in your life is spending time there.
Right.
And, so like client can have whatever reaction they want, but I think our job is to ask these questions and show them just how much we care.
Exactly. And maybe we will move to bi-weekly,
Sure.
Do you need to attend to Gracie?
I think she'll be okay.
Okay.
If she keeps going for like the next 2, then yeah, I'll go make sure she's okay, but I think she's all right.
All right. Love our animals. Yeah, it is about, them having that space, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know, when somebody emails me abruptly saying, hey, I think I'm at a good spot right now. And I'm like, okay, great. Whenever you feel like coming back, feel free to reach out. Or if you want resources for something that I can't provide for you, by all means. I don't want to end on bad blood here. This is not like, it's not corporate style where,
Yeah.
where I'm going to just cut you off or whatever. It's much more at this moment. If you need to pause, we can pause and we can come back to it and whenever you're ready. Like, you know my email, and we'll go from there.
Mm.
And that's important because it isn't about the bucks. It isn't about like trying to find more problems. It's about us wanting to help in areas that you may not realize it needs to be touched upon.
I love that. I love that answer so much because I think in my training and even in supervision I receive now, it's like it's this awareness as the therapist that clients will always come in with their primary issue, which is often the most important issue to address right in the moment. And in them talking about their primary issue, there comes all these secondary or tertiary issues that are like, should be the primary issue, but isn't like the most pressing top of mind for the client. But it's like, yeah, it's like this sense of I'm getting in so many arguments or tiffs with my partner that we can't manage. And underneath, like there's this looming sense of loneliness, or there's this depression that comes with the season, or there's this question as to if my partner actually is the one for me for the rest of my life, and I don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And like all that is there, all the while we're just focusing on communication. All the while the client's like, if we just figured out how to communicate, all these other questions would just, be answered or whatever it is. And our job is to like ask and spend time in the questions that maybe clients don't feel like comfortable enough to ask. And it's not, and what I hear you saying is like, it's not this pleading for them to stay around or pay us more money or keep them in the chair. It's a sense of like, we hear what you're saying, and maybe everybody else in your life dismisses that, but we're going to try our best not to be the one who does that. Yeah. No, I love it.
And I guess kind of looping back to an earlier question of like, how do, like, like as therapists, how do we not take on so much or whatever? I do think about my clients. I think about like, sometimes when they have shared something with me, I'm like, damn it, why didn't I ask more about that? Like that drive home from work, it's a 25-minute drive home, and I kind of reflect on like, man, I should have done more, or next time I'm going to ask this. And so it's like, because we're so in tune with what they say, or at least like you and I are, very in tuned. So,
how do you manage that? Being outside of the work, outside of the office, thinking about clients and worrying about how they're doing, or worrying about how you spent time in session. How do you manage that yourself?
Supervision's great.
Yeah.
And, it was actually like before leaving to go to Portugal and Spain, because I've never taken off 2 weeks before to go on vacation in the last few years. And it was worrisome. But the thing is just like, I can't, sometimes we want to solve their problems, right? Because we feel it so deeply. We care for our clients so deeply that we want to be able to be that person to solve everything. But we're not, and so, and it's okay. So I have to keep telling myself like, it's okay, we're going to figure it out together, right? Because I don't need to do this alone. Because in our consultations too, right? It's just like the feedback we get when we're stuck, or like, you know, if we have something that we really are passionate about a certain client and we want to be able to get that, get more, like, get more out of the session, then it is doing consultation. It is talking about like to our colleagues, or supervisor about certain things.
Mhm.
At first I used to take on a lot, but then I realized I can't do that to be a good, like, I need to show up for every single person,
Yeah.
and having a 3-day weekend is very important. you know Laughing and talking with like about other things, such as the gala the other night, and so um it is a lot of laughter is really used. And you know when I come home, I have my dog Stella greeting me at the door.
Mm.
So she's just so excited to see mom when I'm home and I get home. And that literally just kind of, I can be present being at, like, okay, now I'm home, so
Mhm.
it allows me to kind of leave everything out the door and then come in,
Totally.
you know.
I mean, I'm getting the sense that you've learned to really prioritize yourself in order to prioritize others.
Yes.
And like, I wish clients knew just how much we really do care about them, because we're spending time in our personal lives thinking about them. We're spending time in our personal lives doing consultation and doing supervision, and, in some cases, at least in my case, paying for supervision so that I can do the best by my client,
Absolutely.
and I mean, that's a whole nother thing with supervision and stuff like that, and clients thinking that because I'm getting supervised, I'm inexperienced. And I don't know if you've dealt with that, but like there's this sense of like so much care goes into every client. And that's why we can only see so many. Um, yeah, and I bring that all up because I just wish I wish more clients knew just how much their therapist really does care about them and spend time thinking about their case and thinking about their problems
Yeah.
and how to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why on vacation I don't tell anybody I'm a therapist, you know. But yeah, I mean, you said it so perfectly. Like, it is like, especially, it goes to the point that they're sharing their lives with us, and something so important is happening to them that they're like wanting to share it with us. And like sometimes my clients, like when I have back to back and I go over, the 50-55 mark.
Yeah.
My clients will ask me, they'll be like, how do you transition? How do you transition?
Hell of a question.
Mark, how do you transition?
Oh, how do I transition?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the host of this.
Yeah.
Okay. I have worked on my transition time between clients so hard because of this feeling that you're naming of wanting to show up authentically with every client as much as I can, right? I'm human, and like Ian said on the podcast episode, I had him on. If you didn't listen, please listen. Like
Very good
attention.
episode.
Thank you. Attention doesn't look the same every session.
Yeah.
And like I can't expect that of myself, but I want to show up in the best way that I can. So my transition time is, my clients know that by 49, and what I mean by that is like by the 49th minute of the hour, they know I'm wrapping up. They know that if they're in the middle of something, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna tie it in a knot and be like, thank you so much for telling me that. Let's start next time, because I really want to get done by that 50-minute mark.
Yeah.
So then I can have the 10 minutes to write my note, go pee, chat with you in the hall, eat a mango slice or a snack, and then get back to it. And if I'm going over with a client, and I have smaller and smaller transition time, I've just found that it's so hard for me to show up in the same way, at least in the beginning with another client. Or I have to really like say like, fuck my notes, I'm gonna put that to the side, you know, whatever, and I'm just gonna sit with myself, or I'm gonna go take a walk and like get out of the space that I was just holding.
Yeah.
So then the space has time to like renew itself, and I can like go wash my hands in the bathroom and feel like, okay, I can go in however way I'm gonna show up to the next session. But it does take time with myself to really transition to the next space.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Um, it's interesting because in my intern year, both of the private practices that I worked at, they didn't have a hard stop at 50 minutes. So they would like, you go to the hour, right? And then you start with the other client, right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so it was very, very different when I was starting at Self Space, and in the sense of like how much Marcus and Rachel, they emphasize how you need to stop at the 50th minute. And so for the first year, it was very hard for me to stop at the 50th minute. It was very rare, only if I could, like if it was a good stopping place, But then, but then last year when I I tore my ACL and I had surgery, and coming back to work, like if I didn't get up by the 50th minute, I would be in pain and it would hurt. And so it kind of got me to stop at the 50th minute so I could stretch and like walk around and like, do whatever exercises I needed to do in that 10 minutes. But it is important, and I do try to stop at the 50th minute so that even though I may not write my notes right away, I think what I like doing is seeing you, seeing Kelly, seeing all our colleagues, and just like, even if it's a quick hi, because for me, that allows me to slow down and know that all of us were just in this space for 15 minutes. And we know what it's like. So seeing each other, giving each other a hug, or, like sharing a quick something, even if it's a hello in the kitchen, right?
I think that's what I love about group practice.
Oh, absolutely.
Just being around people who get it as therapists, who are like, oh yeah, hey, I was just struggling with a client. I felt really stuck in the session. For me, myself, like client was figuring it out. Me, myself, I don't know where I was.
Right.
And to hear you or some other colleague be like, I get you, me too.
Right.
It's like so helpful to get back like, okay, well, yeah, this is normal. I'm not a shit therapist. Like this is what it is. It's just nice to see other people's faces and like get that story.
Absolutely.
So then you could show up in other spaces too.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we have all of us have such a good rapport with one another, at our office, is because we're so comfortable to do so. We are being vulnerable with one another when coming out of some of those hard sessions or stuckness sessions for ourselves. Where are we? Or if it brings up some transference for ourselves, right? And so, to connect with another therapist. I think, you know what, I've noticed, I don't know about your clients, but my clients, when they see all of us together, like colleagues talking or laughing or whatever the case, I think it makes them feel good about where they're at. They're not at just a random therapy office. They're at this place where it seems like, oh, wow, the colleagues actually get along, or, oh my God, the waiting area is busy today.
Yeah.
I was so excited when our new associates came on, because it did fill the waiting area with more clients, and kind of seeing them back in the office again. It's exciting because, you're happy to see them, they're happy to see you, and we have that connection, which then makes us a good therapist, you know?
Totally. I think there's something different about coming to a therapy office, both as client and clinician,
Absolutely.
where it's like alive
Yeah.
and human and well, and you're seeing people smile and laugh and be with each other.
Right.
Because I think that's what therapy is at the end of the day, is like the ability to learn how to smile, laugh, and be with ourselves and another
Right.
in a comfortable way and live like Spain and Portugal does.
Absolutely. It's all about being like Spain and Portugal, right?
Right.
No, and then I think because our boss also has such a great top-down approach, you know, and it allows us to be who we want to be and how we can shine in our own ways and how supportive all of them are going to be, you know. I don't know about you, but I found that Rachel was super supportive when doing any sort of initiative that like, she's like, all right, do it, you know, totally support. The other day she was asking how your podcast was going and how my podcast was going and just, you know, like just really invested in our outside work too. Then it makes us want to be better clinicians and show up.
Cool.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, yeah, if I were to ever run a business, I'd take her mentorship class for sure because she just does it so well. And I think the reason it's so well is because she really knows us as human beings and empowers us to be more of ourselves. And like for me, as you know, from all my anxieties and consult group and everything like that, like me being a younger clinician, me being early in my professional development as an associate licensed clinician, comes with a lot of anxiety of how I show up in the room. And like my interactions with her and Marcus, our other supervisor, has always been from this place of you got to trust yourself because you're here, you're trained, you have your expertise, and you're you. And like that message is always given to me. Like, don't forget, like you're you and you are, you know, the most any client can ask for you to be is human.
Yeah.
And like you do that so well. And it has my heart. And I can confidently say I love going to work because I have colleagues like you and like supervisors like Rachel and Marcus and everybody around that just feels like a warm hug. And I think it's easy to take that and extend it to my clients.
Absolutely.
And I hope they can feel that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think having that support allows us to really keep us grounded, you know, keep us wanting to come back to work. The reason why we think about our clients, you know, is because of that, because we're not burnt out from the workspace that we're in, you know. So we are able to focus more on our clients because we know we're being taken care of. I'm telling you, okay, when Mark joined.
What's going on?
I'm gonna give you this shout out. When Mark joined, I don't know if you know the story about, but like, so I was in my office 6 or whatever. I think we had, because Mark and I sometimes we share the same shift. And like I think one of the first few times or whatever, you would stop into my office and be like, "Hey, Amisha, hope you have a good session or a good afternoon, or how are you?" And just like I was like, "Who is this guy that Rachel hired?" You know, and but you just have this very warm like feeling around you, like that really, you know. I was so excited to get to know and just so happy that Rachel had hired you. Though you are a younger clinician, it really like just what you bring to the office and as you bring to your like as yourself to being human, it just really it allows all of us, you know, to slow our roll, you know, and just be human too. right? And it is hard because I'm an associate as well. I think, I don't have that much more experience than you do, but the fact is that being authentic, being human, trusting ourselves, it's hard, especially in a space where we're trying to, also take care of our clients because we're playing multiple roles here, right?
Thank you so much for saying that.
Of course.
Oh my gosh. Didn't know we're going to warm up my heart here. I appreciate
Is it the heart or is it the wine?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. That's so sweet. Thank you. No, it really is important for me to know the place that I'm at and to know the people who I'm around, because like we said somewhere earlier in this, or like you said somewhere earlier in this conversation, there's so many things about people that are similar to ourselves and our stories. That is just important for me in my life in general, outside of being a therapist and outside of being an interview podcaster.
Yeah.
That just, I don't know, feel very fulfilling to me. Like how people are doing, encouraging them, because I know in my life the encouragement has gone a long way. And I want to give that to others. So thank you for noticing that and saying that. I can really digest that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and if Kelly's listening, she knows that this is very hard for me to accept praise and compliments and stuff like that. So I'm going to really take that and sit with it for a while.
Oh.
Yeah. This authenticity that you're talking about, of being in the space and being with clients, let me form my question. How does that I rewind. As a clinician of color, how are you able to show up authentically with your clients?
My first question to my clients, after, of course, the intake and everything like that, when we get into the second, third, fourth, when I ask, how's it going? How are you? I genuinely mean it. And I want to know. I just don't want to hear oh, it's going well. No, I what's going on? How is the weekend? What was so, I really want, I'm not trying to just start a conversation to start a conversation or just asking you in passing of, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm more, how are you really doing? When somebody says, oh, not much happened, throughout the week. And then when they start sharing, and I'm like, you just said not much happened this week. It seems like a lot have happened this week, and they're like, yeah, it did. So it's really, I really want to show up for them in the sense of I care for you. And I'm just not asking how's it going just for the sake of it. It's much more, how are you really doing? Because it really taps in, because a lot of people don't get asked that during the week. They don't get asked what's been going on. How have you really been feeling? Right? And I think that's the authentic part about me, is that I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know because I feel like if I show up authentically and I create that space, then the client will feel comfortable in that space of showing up authentically too.
Totally. Do you feel like for different clients of different ethnic backgrounds or cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, do you feel like the answers to the how are you reallys differ?
That's a good question. I didn't really ever think about that. I think it does. But if we even put all of those together, nobody really gets asked how they're really doing and genuinely meaning it, you know, because of crazy lives going on, like we talked about earlier, because they've had so much their bosses want from them, or, you know, it's like even new clients, when they come to client, like they've never been to therapy before, in their first session, like some people have told me they've never opened up as much as they've opened up in their first session because of how authentic I was, or I am, or they didn't realize they were going to cry in their first session. And they're like, I don't know where these tears are. I don't know. Like, you know, every therapist room will have multiple boxes of tissues. I think we all keep those companies employed, like producing because of us. But people carry so much stuff. And so it's like, if I show up authentic, regardless of their background, then I feel like it will make it'll make the space much more comfortable and showing up how they want to show up with me.
Yeah.
You know? Because if I came in again, sitting down all proper with my notebook and just like no expression, nobody's going to open up to me. Right? And sometimes they still won't open up, just, you know, how authentic I am. And it might take time. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up where you want me to show up for you.
Wow. Yeah, you're saying that your authenticity, despite who the client is that model of behavior that often leads them to feeling authentic themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a really good book that I read, and it's called How We Feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in just the opening, I think his name is Mark Brackett, I believe. I heard him on NPR one day when I was coming to work a long time ago. And he's all about emotions and feelings. But in the first few pages of his opening of his book, he was like, nobody had, like when he was a young kid, like around 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there, nobody asked him how he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And until his uncle asked him how he is, and how he truly wanted to know how he is doing, like this little child. And he bursted into tears because nobody had asked him how he really was doing, because everybody would overlook him because he was a bigger guy. He was getting into fights. He was being bullied, whatever the case may be. And so he was able to share all of that stuff to his uncle, who had asked him, how are you? And not just the surface level, how are you? And so I feel like though that brings a lot of like, I care. You're going to be in this room, even if we don't mesh, which is okay, because you're not going to mesh with every single client or every single therapist. But at least you know that I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about, I had a recent client and therapy, and they were very ready to end. It was just like yeah, they felt a lot more confidence. I was all that stuff. And I don't bring this up to applaud my good work as a therapist and their good work. Of course, their good work. But more so, it just is reminding me of like, as we were ending, they were telling me that, you know, throughout this entire process, you always asked me, like, whatever I was bringing to you, you always asked me, and how is so-and-so thinking about this? Like, how is client thinking about this? if my client's name was Billy, like, yeah, and where does Billy fit into this? Right. And it's like, yeah, how are you really doing beyond like what everybody else says or beyond what you think you should say?
Right.
Where are you at?
Yeah.
Where does Billy fit into this?
Right.
Where, everybody else has their opinion. Yeah, but what about yours?
Right.
And it's like giving a client the space to really be like, oh, wow, I really matter in this conversation. And I haven't felt that in so long. Um, oh, it's transformative.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because like that's why it doesn't matter what age you are. I feel like everyone needs to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own story that they want to share. So, and like moving into much more modern therapy. And if you're not authentic with them, then how are they going to be authentic with you? So I have people that ask me too, how am I doing? I've even had when clients have ended, they're like, I felt like you were more of a friend than a therapist, that I felt so comfortable talking with you. And so, sorry.
Me too.
Yeah. And it feels so good. Like those are the moments where I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. It makes you feel so like
it's high praise.
It is high praise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm so grateful of being a therapist, regardless of that comment. But it's just like it makes it even much more greater when you get like compliments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, I'm so glad I made a difference. I hope it like stays with them.
Yeah, I think you're naming something there that I'm picking out of like, this is often a job that comes with little feedback, right? I know how you do the work and I can give you feedback and be like, oh, you know, Amisha, you're such a great therapist. And I know you are.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've never sat in the room with you.
Right.
And to hear it from a client where we don't hear it often, yeah, it feels so good because it's like, oh yeah, this is having an impact. And we therapists, we need that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we want and care again so much about our clients that it is nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, yeah, getting that praise or getting that, and like I've gotten emotional with my clients too. I cry with them. I think why not? Especially if we're getting that deep.
Right.
I feel like and when you do that, that shows up a lot of authenticity too.
Totally. And like for a client to feel like they're talking to a friend while also knowing that we play such a interesting role as friend, but as friend who will challenge,
Exactly.
as friend who will like be curious, as friend who will like not let you like bullshit yourself into certain cycles or whatever.
Yeah.
Having both of those at once feels so special.
Yeah.
And then hearing that they see you still, even with your challenges, even with the way you do your therapy as a friend, goes such a long way.
It really does. It really does. Absolutely.
Mm.
That brings me up to another thing. Like one time with a different couple, this person was saying something and I blurted out, "That's bullshit." And I felt so bad. And but it got them to be like, "Oh. Yeah, okay." Like, it got
Totally.
like, and I didn't mean to blur, and I apologize. I wasn't calling them a bullshitter, but like, whatever was coming out of their mouth, I was like, that's not you, like you're just saying that, and it when you get to that level of like being in their stories or being, sometimes it's like, it's challenging them, right? Like, I know you can do it.
Yeah. With love.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And this whole homework thing, it's like, it's just like, well, the homework will come. Like, the homework is the stuff that we do in here, and that you have to, go outside and do it.
Yeah. And coming like the challenging piece, I feel like is so sweet because, I mean, I think a lot of us therapists frame our space as like we're going to create a non-judgmental and safe space. Like to the average listener, us saying like that's bullshit, or me calling a client out this week on like, yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure, can be framed as like, oh, they're judging them hard.
Right.
But really it's I care so much about you that this cycle that you're in isn't working. And it's not out of judgment, it's not out of negativity or saying you're wrong. It's that like, hey, do you see
Right.
this? And if they're like, no, it doesn't feel like bullshit, or no, I this feels like the right thing, then I'm gonna be curious about like, oh, okay,
Right.
my bad. Let's talk. Tell me, understand more, so then I don't jump to that.
Right.
But it's not out of like judgment at all.
No.
Or saying like they're not an expert in how they want to do things.
Right.
But it's like more so from a curious and caring place of what's leading you to this, because it feels like it's not working for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like for myself, it's like people do think that we judge them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't have anything to judge, like the fact is that you're telling me everything. Who am I to judge you?
Totally. One of my clients, I think like a month or so ago, was like, yeah, but tell me like what you really think though.
Yeah.
Like, tell me like, yeah, but you got to think for like when you hear about this outside of therapy,
Yeah.
it'd be ridiculous, right? I'm like, what? No, not really.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe a part of me, sure, but like, not really. Like, I think what you're telling me right now is completely reasonable. I can see the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And if it's not working, then why are we still doing it?
Yeah.
Let's talk through that.
Yeah.
Because it has to be doing something for you to keep you here. Otherwise, if it's not, it's time to make some change.
Right.
Yeah. But it's like, I think the non-judgmental part of the space really comes from, I care about you. I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep going back to that, but it's very true. I think that's how I do the work, and how I think a lot of our clinicians at our practice do the work of like wanting our care for our clients to come forward first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hard for people to believe. Like, because, yeah, we're human, right? Naturally, we're going to judge, right? But it's also like, no, we signed up for this work. Like, again, I tore my ACL almost 2 years ago, and the doctor didn't judge me. Like they were like, how did you tear your ACL? What were you doing?
Yeah, fair point.
And I'm just like, or the physical therapist, it's like, okay, there's so many injuries that happen that way.
Right.
And
It's
so
just what it is.
it is what, yeah, exactly. So if at any point you feel like I'm judging you, I want you to call me out.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, let's talk through it.
Let's talk through it. What am I doing that is making you feel uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. Right? Is that showing up elsewhere too?
Right. Oh, yeah. Such a clinical conversation where it's like, let's bring it right into the relationship right here. I said this, you had this reaction, and what's going on?
Yeah.
Can I be this person who's like, man, I really messed up there and I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, let's rewind and do this again. Because I don't think a lot of clients get that outside of the space. And I think that's part of the reason why they're in the space, to feel that level of attunement and care.
Absolutely. And I'll even call out myself. Like, I'm like, okay, look, if this is the dumbest thing or the stupidest thing that you've ever heard, tell me. Before I, like, when I say something, or, if I'm like, okay, over the week, like, do you think you can do blah, blah, blah? But if it's the dumbest thing you've ever heard, tell me. I don't care, like, I want you to call me out. I want you to say that that's not going to work for me. Okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. You know yourself better than I do. You're the expert in the room. But I'm bringing the educational background.
Totally. And even if what they say does hurt me, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's not for them to hold back things that they're feeling because they're afraid that's going to hurt me. Like,
Right.
that's not what a relationship is.
No.
Like, you can say things, it can hurt my feelings because I'm a human being. But what I do with that is something for me to figure out,
Exactly.
you know, and that I will. And I can hold all of that and still give you care.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people coming back to that, to like the shame and anxiety from a little bit ago, like really they want to know that they can say things and that's okay. And like there can still be a relationship at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, but if we're too worried about like, oh, if I say this, my partner will react this way, or this person will react this way, and I'm going to just keep it to myself, and that's where a lot of problems, long-term problems start.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole resentment
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff. Like we said earlier, same phrase, two different ways you can say it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, Amisha, this has been so good, and I want to keep talking, and I also want to be so aware of the time and everything like that. So every episode, I ask 3 doorknob questions. As you know, doorknob questions are the ones, the burning heat, the hot questions that clients say on the way out at the 50-minute. And so I have 3 doorknob questions for you today. And the first one is, what's a small joy in your life that you've been loving recently?
Well, I think the small joy, it is like, you know, when we went to like Spain and stuff like that, I still tried to kind of bring that authenticity of like, let's just be, you know, because of how we can get so wrapped up. Even the other day when I was getting ready for the gala, I was like, oh wow, like a few weeks ago, I was just like in Sevilla having a glass of wine and, you know, like eating great food and stuff like that. So I still try to bring that joy and happiness of being in the same space like we were today.
Yeah, totally. I love it. I could tell every day in the office that you're trying to do your best. I'll kid you not. Between sessions, Amisha's just so laid back. She's like, you know, I'm just getting through the day. The day is what it is. I'm just me. And like, I think that level of energy is something I need in the space, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I got this client coming up, but seeing Amisha chill and laid back is very grounding. And I think is grounding to a lot of other clinicians that we work with too. So thank you for that. A small joy you've been enjoying is a big joy that I've been enjoying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Second doorknob question is, if you could pick one thing that a client's taught you about life, about relationships, what would that be?
Oh man. That, like, I think one thing that they've taught me is just basically how important I am in their life. And just like how this space that I create for them and keep on creating for them, they enjoy and they value so much. And so it's like, how do I keep on doing that for them? So it's like a loop in a case.
Yeah.
Because I make the space for them, they get more authentic, they get more whatever, but they value me and what I have to say. And like sometimes when they're talking to what's been surprising is how I'm talked about. Like when they tell me like, oh, I told my parents about my therapist said this. And I'm like, who's your therapist? Like I have to think for a moment, right? That it's me. So like just teaching me to just show up the way I am is one of the things that is always a lesson that I've been taking from my clients.
I love that. That feedback feels so important to help you keep showing up to each and every client that you see.
Yeah.
And like to hear that keeps you going.
Yep.
And I think this is reminding me of I listened to this mental health podcast because that's what it feels like a lot of my life is. And they always say like these two therapists who teach on something, and they always say like thank you. They talk directly to the listeners, and they're like thank you so much for the work you're doing, because you're impacting like not only the client but you're impacting generations beyond them.
Yeah.
And like when I listen to you, it's hearing that feedback, hearing how your clients talk about you, how you're impacting the generations, that keeps that energy up, keeps you like fulfilled in the work that you do, so then you can continue to do that across the clients you see in a day or in a week or in a month.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, my last question for you to wrap up our episode today is, if you could share one message with your younger self, whether that be kid, little Amisha, or somewhere in the recent past, what would that message be?
Oh, wow. We're going deep here.
Oh, yeah. We're getting real.
We're getting real. How do I say this without crying? Trust. Just trust her. Just, you're going to be okay. You're going to do something that is going to be impactful that you never thought. And knowing I'm going to make a difference in people's lives in a different way that nobody ever thought of. So it's just like, trust everything is going to be okay. You're going to do good.
Well, Amisha, thank you so much for being on the show. Of course, for everyone listening, if you want to connect with Amisha or learn more about her information and everything will be in the show notes. And again, Amisha, I'm so thankful you're here. I'm so thankful that you've taken time out of your Sunday to come into my home and chat with me. And I think the community who listens to this is going to be grateful for you too.
Thank you so much. I feel honored to be on your podcast. And anybody listening, I also have a podcast, Let's Chai and Chat. Gonna be coming out. I mean, it's been out. Episode 5 comes out in a couple weeks. But
and are we gonna get another season out of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think
I pressured her to say this.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, season 2 is gonna happen. I didn't know if it was gonna happen or not, but I think from the feedback that I've been getting, and my number one fan here.
What can I say?
Like, it's gonna continue. I think there's gonna be some changes, but some, especially as you learn, how I'm going to adapt to what my viewers or my listeners say. So thank you so much. Cheers.
Amazing. Cheers. All right. Sweet. How do you feel?
Feel great.
Yeah. That was.
How do you feel?
So good. I just wanted to keep talking, but I looked over at the clock and.
How long have we been talking?
Thanks for listening to this episode of In Session with Amisha Gandhi. If you made it this far, please go ahead and leave a like, send me any feedback, and follow the show for more episodes to come. If you like the conversation we had today, you'll love the conversation that I had with Kelvin Pepra about identity and community and belonging. Thanks for your support. I look forward to seeing you next time on In Session.